Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum viewers. This is Hafsa Khan, a student of MSc Part 1 Chemistry, presenting this presentation about effluent treatment plant. Before I start my presentation, I would like to thank our professor Dr. Sadaf Iqbal for giving us this amazing opportunity to learn about such a useful water saving and recycling technology. There is a saying, when you conserve water, actually you conserve life. We, these 20 students from Department of Chemistry, University of Karachi, collaborate for this presentation, and without them and their contribution, it is not possible to share this useful information with you people. Now let's forward. The topic to be covered in this presentation are the definition of water treatment, brief history of water treatment plant and first water treatment plant progression, effluent treatment plant, contamination in effluent, effluent treatment plant working, and the last one is the pros and cons of effluent treatment plant. Let's take a look on the definition of the water treatment. Any process that improves the quality of water to make it appropriate for a specific end use is actually water treatment. Or we can say that the process that removes any type of contaminations found in water by using method either physically such as filtration, chemically such as coagulation, or biologically such as sand filtration. This picture is actually the representation of a simple water process. Now let's talk about the brief history of water treatment over time. Water treatment methods were recommended from early 2000 BC, founded by ancient Greek and Sanskrit writings. The method of boiling water was used to purify water, but the concept of microorganisms were not discovered that time. But later on, Egyptians discovered the principle of coagulation, and they used alum for suspended particle settlement. Water plant was then first discovered by Rome, and its aim was not to purify water but to distribute to different cities and villages. Then Sir Francis Bacon attempted to remove salt particles by means of an unsophisticated form of sand filtration. It didn't work exactly, but it paved the way for further experimentation. And then water microorganisms were first discovered in 1976 by the discovery of microscope. Now, first water treatment plant and its progression. Actually, first water filters for domestic purposes were set up in 1700. Then, first municipal water treatment plant designed by Robert Thomson was built in Scotland, and slow sand filtration is used in these treatment. The first water pipes were then installed in 1703 to ease the problem of distribution. And then Sir John Snow applied chlorine to purify the water from cholera epidemic that spread through water that time, and this method paved a way for water disinfection by chlorine. This discovery led government starting to install municipal water plant and hence the first government regulation of public water. The method of rapid sand filtration, sedimentation, and water chlorination were then carried out. This plant is among the first 4 water treatment plants. Now, what is effluent treatment plant? Effluent treatment plant, or we can say that ETP, is one type of a wastewater treatment method, and in this method we purify the industrial wastewater for its reuse, and its aim is to release safe water to environment. Contaminations in effluent. Industrial effluent contain various types of contaminations depending on the industry. Some effluent contains oil and grease, and some contain toxic material like cyanide. Effluent from food and beverages factories contain degradable organic pollutants. Since industrial wastewater contain a diversity of impurities, and that's why we use the effluent treatment plant working. Actually, in effluent treatment plant, several processes involved, and these processes of effluent treatment are mainly distributed into three main parts, and that is primary treatment. Actually, in primary treatment, the solid separation is taken place by several different tanks. Secondary treatment removes the dissolved organic matter by use of biological agent, and hence known as biological treatment. And the third one is tertiary treatment. It is a final cleaning process that improves wastewater quality before reuse, recycle, or discharge to. Okay, viewers, as you see that these charts represent different stages of water treatment process. As we see that primary, secondary, and tertiary treatments were further divided into different treatments. Now I want to show you these pictorial representation. By the help of these, you can easily understand the whole process of effluent treatment plant working. First of all, the water is collected from different industries, and then it is carried out to the pumping station, from where it is pumped to the effluent treatment plant. In effluent treatment plant, water goes through several different processes, and in the end, the safe and treated water is flowed down to the river. You can see in the lower portion the sludge, which is produced from primary and secondary clarifier, and from the aeration train is treated in the same process. Now let us take a look on the processes one by one. The first treatment process is primary or physical treatment. Collection. Effluent collection normally takes place by means of gravity from industries, where effluent water is led to the pumping station and pumped into effluent treatment plant. Screening. This is the first unit operation that occurs in effluent treatment plants. A screen is a device with a uniform opening, and its purpose is to remove large floating solids. This is the picture of bar screens. Grid chamber. The effluent that moves into the grid chamber removes the gravel, metal fragment, and sand from the effluent. Removal of grid can prevent damaging of pumps and operational difficulties. This is the grid chamber, from where the fat, oil, and grease on the upper portion is removed, and the grit is settled down on the lower and is removed from the lower outlet, and then the safe water or the treated water is removed from the side outlet. The next step is coagulation and flocculation. In these processes, the separation of suspended solid portion from water taken place. Coagulation is actually the process of the addition of coagulant to destabilize the stabilized charged particle. and flocculation is the mixing technique that assists in the seating of particles. This is the pictorial representation of the coagulation and flocculation process. In the first beaker, you can see that the coagulant is added to the impure water. In the second stage, the coagulant forms precipitate trapping impurities. And in the last stage, the precipitate and trapped impurities settle to the bottom. There are several coagulants which are used in this process. They may be aluminum sulfate, aluminum chloride, sodium aluminate, ferric sulfate, ferrous sulfate, ferric chloride, and ferric chloride sulfate. Now, the next process is neutralization. In this process, the maintaining of the pH range from 6 to 9 taken place, which is required for different processing units in effluent treatment plant. This process is actually applied to balance the excess acidity or alkalinity in water, and for this purpose, some neutralizing bead filters are used. Then the water moves to the sedimentation and clarification treatment. In this process, the suspended material settled down by gravity. Suspended material may be clay, slate, or oils. Clarification consists in removing all these kinds of particles, natural organic matter, and color from water to make it clear. As you see in this picture, that the chocolate brown color sludge is settled down in the tank and is removed from the lower outlet. Now the next process is secondary or biological treatment. Biological treatment is actually rely on bacteria, nematodes, or other small organisms to break down organic waste. It is divided into two processes, which is anaerobic treatment and aerobic treatment. Aerobic and aerobic systems are both forms of biological treatment that use microorganisms to remove and break down the organic contaminants from effluent. Now, what is the difference between these two processes, means anaerobic and aerobic? Actually, the aerobic treatment is typically applied to efficiently treat low strength wastewater, means whose COD value is lower than 1000 mg per liter, whereas anaerobic treatment is typically applied to higher organic loading wastewater or effluent water, and their COD value is higher than 4000 mg per liter. Aerobic treatment is used to treat lower contaminated industrial effluent, whereas the anaerobic treatment is used to treat highly contaminated industrial effluent. Aerobic treatment required oxygen, whereas anaerobic did not require oxygen. Aerobic treatment units are typically more expensive to operate, whereas the biogas in anaerobic treatment can be used to produce electricity and heat and serve as a renewable energy resource that effectively replaces fossil fuels. The aerobic treatment plant covers small area, whereas the anaerobic treatment covered large area. Now, the aerobic effluent treatment. In this process, the microorganisms degrade organic contaminant in the presence of oxygen. This process further proceeds into the following three treatments: activated sludge treatment, aerated lagoons, and trickling filters. The first one is activated sludge treatment. Activated sludge treatment is nothing but a mixture of microorganisms and a suspended solid. The bacteria culture is cultivated in this treatment process to break down the organic matter into carbon dioxide, water, and inorganic compound. Actually, in this process, the bacteria secrete sticky substances that coat the minute particles carried in effluent. The particles stick together to form a flux and create. The activated sludge is aerated to dissolve oxygen, which allows the organic matter, means BOD, to be utilized by bacteria. The oxygen dissolved in the water allowed the bacteria to use the food and also to change. Return activated sludge. Actually, the activated sludge, when reaches the end of the process, it is still very highly active biomass, but it's now mixed with an effluent, purified effluent. So it is transferred to the settling tank to allow separation from the purified effluent, and these effluent may be discharged to the tertiary treatment. So this biomass is now called return activated sludge. As you can see in this process, in this picture, in the aeration tank, in this process the organic matter is broken down into carbon dioxide and water and some other organic compound by the help of bacteria, which is cultured in this aeration tank, and dissolved oxygen is also provided to the water in the aeration tank by the help of blowers. Now, from this aeration tank, the mixed liquid is transferred to the final settling cone-shaped tank. In this cone-shaped tank, the activated sludge is settled down in the bottom, whereas the pure effluent is on the upper surface, which is transferred to and discharged to the tertiary treatment, whereas the activated sludge vessel on the lower side is returned to the aeration tank because bacteria is cultured there in this activated sludge, and in this way the cycle begins, whereas the waste activated sludge is transferred to the sludge for the sludge treatment. Aerated lagoons and trickling filter is also the biological processes to treat effluent in the presence of oxygen. Aerated lagoon is actually a treatment pond provided with artificial aeration to promote the biological oxidation of effluent, whereas the trickling filter is also known as sprinkling filters are commonly used for the biological treatment of domestic sewage and effluent industrial effluent also. Now, anaerobic wastewater treatment or effluent treatment. In this process, the microorganism degrade organic contamination in the absence of oxygen. Sulfate reduction and methanogenesis usually produce biogas. A mixture of mostly methane and carbon dioxide is useful byproduct and tend to generate a lower amount of biosolid, means sludge, as a byproduct. The aerobic bacteria which is used in these processes are actinomyces, bacteroids, clostridiums, propionibacterium, phosphabacterium, and peptostreptococcus, etc. Anaerobic digestion. Anaerobic digestion is a sequence of processes by which microorganisms actually, break down biodegradable material in the absence of oxygen. Stages involved in anaerobic digestion. Actually, there are 4 stages which involved in this process are hydrolysis, acidogenesis, acetogenesis, and methanogenesis. I wanna explain these 4 stages by this flow chart. Actually, in hydrolysis, the complex polymers like carbohydrate, protein, and fats is break down into a monomers by extracellular enzymes. Monomers like sugar, fatty acid, and amino acid. Whereas in acidogenesis, these monomers is changed into propionic acid, butyric acid, and alcohol by the help of acid forming bacteria. Now, the acetogenesis is the third phase in anaerobic digestion, where short chain organic acid and alcohols produced by acetogenesis are further preceded by acetate forming bacteria to yield mainly acetic acid as well as carbon dioxide and hydrogen. In methanogenesis, methanogenes use the intermediate products by preceding stage and convert them into methane, carbon dioxide, and water. These components make up majority of biogas emitted from system. Now the tertiary system or the tertiary process start. We can say a tertiary process or chemical process. Clarification or final clarification. It is used to increase the removal of solid from effluent after primary and secondary treatments. This is the picture of a final clarifier. Here the velocity of water is slowed down and the solid present in the water settle down in this tank, whereas the uh, the treated water move to the another treatment tank, like filtration. The clarified water is first passed through the adjacent filtration plant, which contain large filter blocks to ensure high quality water. This is the picture of filters which is used in this process. Now the last step is disinfection. Disinfectant can kill microorganisms from the treated effluent. The most widely disinfectant include chlorine, ultraviolet light, and ozone. As you see in this picture, the water before disinfectant contain microorganism, but after disinfecting it by chlorine or ultraviolet light or by ozone, now the water is purified and clear. Okay, now the sludge treatment. The sludge which actually release from the primary and the secondary clarifier and from the aeration tank is treated in the same treatment plant. The residue that accumulate in the effluent treatment plant is called sludge or biosolid. Sludge is a solid, semi-solid or slurry residual material that is produced as a byproduct of effluent treatment plant process. Treatment methods. Actually, the treatment of sludge may include a combination of thickening, digestion, dewatering processes, and drying. The first stage in the sludge treatment is thickening. Thickening is usually accomplished in a tank called a gravity thickener. Thickening or a thickener can reduce the total volume of sludge to less than half the original volume. This is the picture of the gravity thickener. Here the sludge is thickened by the force of a gravity, and the thickened sludge is removed from these tank to the other process by the lower outlet, whereas the water which is separated from this thickened sludge is removed from this tank by the upper outlet. The next step is digestion. Sludge digestion is actually a biological process in which the organic solid are decomposed into stable substances. Digestion reduces the total mass of a solid, destroy pathogen, and make it easier to dewater or dry the sludge. Actually, this is the picture of the digestion, or we can say the anaerobic sludge digestion. And these the stabilized sludge settle down in the lower and remove from the lower outlet, whereas the activated digestive sludge is in the second layer and the water or supernatant in the upper layer. Sludge dewatering. Actually, the dewatering aims to reduce the water content further so that the solid content of the sludge remains 20%. It can then be handled like a solid material. Dewatering can either be done mechanically using a filter press or by using drying bead. Now the sludge drying. As you can see in this picture, the dewatered and dried sludge is now easy to handle. Sludge drying is actually the thermal drying process where thermal energy is provided to the sludge to evaporate water. The process of drying sludge reduces volume of the product, making its storage, transportation, packing, and retail easier. There, the sludge content remain about 90%. Now, the last topic, the pros and the cons of effluent treatment plant. First of all, I will discuss the pros of the effluent treatment plant. It is used to clean industry effluent and recycle it for further use. It also reduces the usage of fresh water in industries, and it also prevents the natural environment against pollution. It meets the standard for emission of pollutant set by the government and avoid heavy penalty. And is also reduced expenditure on water acquisition. Now the cons of the water effluent treatment plant. It actually required high initial capital cost and maintenance and operation cost is also required. Chemicals is also required for the effluent treatment plant working. The need of energy to operate the system is also required and it's quite expensive. Whereas the chlorine is quite volatile and can result in disinfection byproduct that can be harmful to humans, animals, and aquatic life. Okay, viewer, so after the completion of this treatment, we get, or we can say recover, very beneficial things. As you see in this picture, first of all, we recover water. Secondly, the sludge which is produced from this treatment process give us energy in the form of methane and biosolid which is used for agriculture purposes. And we also recover phosphorus which is used as a fertilizer. So this treatment is very beneficial. Okay, now thank you for watching.